Welcome everyone. Here we are heading into week 3 of our fall semester, this 2025, and we're working on our second weekly prep assignment. So to get started, in my BA 322 folder for this semester, I've made a new file that says week 3, and into it I've downloaded bicycle, GDP years, and restaurant from the textbook publisher files. The link is on Canvas, and I've combined them all together for a weekly prep assignment number 2 file, and here they are. So my file has 3 tabs, one for bicycle, that's what we're going to do in this video, one for restaurant, that's coming at the end, and one for GDP year, which will be our second video. So I'm going to just drag them into the right order. So bicycles first, then GDP year, and restaurant. So you can move these tabs around by clicking and dragging. Okay, let's get into it. What are we doing this week? This week we're introducing some data visualization. We're going to learn a variety of ways to visualize data. And one of those is going to be in charts and tables. And in this video, we're going to do our very first chart where we hone in on the formatting to make the chart easier to read. So Excel has fantastic data visualization just built in, but its default settings don't necessarily improve the readability. So if we tweak the default settings a little bit, we can make the chart better at conveying information. So let's take the data that I've got here. I've got 2 variables, year and sales. I've got data for 10 years, years 1 through 10. And here, this number, sales, represents sales of bicycles in millions of dollars. So I'm going to just change this title to sales in millions dollar. I'll then use the wrap functionality rather than making that table, rather than making the column super wide. I'll make it a little bit wider. There we go. So this is bicycle sales in millions of dollars by year. Each row represents 1 year, the number of the year, 1 through 10, and it tells us the sales. So making charts are quite easy in Excel. We highlight the data we want to use. We go to Insert. And then here in this section are a variety of different chart types. Excel will recommend charts, column, line, scatter, other types of line, funnel charts. So that's great. Sometimes it knows just what we need, but what if it doesn't? And sometimes it'll say nothing to be recommended. So when we've got data over time, we always use either a line chart here, one of these, or we use a scatter chart here, one of these, something where the lines are connected. So I'm just going to use a scatter with smooth lines and markers, and that one makes the lines quite wavy. Another option, I just deleted that, would be to insert a scatter chart with straight lines and markers, right? And that looks like that. That'll look a lot like the line chart. But here we go. Excel says right on. And now look, we've got a line chart. We can see here on the x-axis, we have 0 through 12. That's going to correspond to these years. And then on the y-axis, we have 0 through 35 corresponding to these sales in millions. Okay, so some basics. When you're making a chart, there are a handful of things to do. First off is to eliminate any of what is called non-data ink. So that is ink, in this case, not ink, but you get the idea, that doesn't convey particular information about the data. Lines or dots or anything on the chart that doesn't help us tell the story. And the thing that I'm seeing that doesn't really help tell the story are these grid lines. We've got vertical grid lines up and down, and we've got horizontal grid lines left and right. And I can alternate lighting them up by clicking on one and then after the other, one after the other. I want to remove them. So to move the horizontal lines, I'll click in the chart onto the horizontal line, and you'll see they light up with those blue dots, and then I just hit delete or backspace, and boom, they're gone. Let's do the vertical ones. Click on it and then remove it. Great. there we are. Sales in millions, no more grid lines. Step 1. Step 2 is to take a look for extra sort of random gaps, right? We're not zoomed in on this data. This axis could start at 1 instead of 0, and we don't really need years 11 and years 12 because I don't have a year 11 and a year 12. So we're going to adjust this axis. So to adjust the axis, the trickiest part really is going to be getting the axis highlighted. And so I clicked on it, and I've done this 1,000 times, and this little live box, it's live because it's got the blue dots on the corners, pops up. That's what you need. If you click in and that doesn't pop up, like I didn't click exactly in the right spot, right, the axis isn't going to light up. You need the axis to light up. So click right on one of the numbers, and if it didn't work the first time, click out of the box, then click back in. Once it's awake, once it's live, right-click. A pop-up menu will come up, and you'll do Format Axis. Great. Once the Format Axis box pops up, you see you've got a lot of numbers. You can adjust the axis, you can adjust text. Then within the axis, you've got options, you've got tick marks, labels, numbers, but what we're really looking for are the bounds, the minimum and the maximum bounds. Right now it's starting at 0 and going to 12, just like we see here, but I want to change it. I want it to start at 1 and go to 11. And then I'm getting my units, my major units, 2. So what does that mean? It starts at 1, then it goes to 3, then it goes to 5, then it goes to 7, 9, and 11. I'm going to change that to 1 so that these numbers correspond with the dots. Is that completely necessary? No, but without those lines that we just removed because they're kind of confusing or not that helpful, I do want those numbers there. Okay, I'm going to close this, get my cursor out of that box, and that's done. So we adjusted the axis and we removed the grid lines. Now the last thing we need is to give the title, we need to give the chart a meaningful title, and we need to label both axes. Do you always need to label the axes? Well, unless it's super duper obvious, the answer is yes. You can default to always labeling them unless you don't need to. Like if it is sales by year and this is 2001 through 2012, then you wouldn't really need it, but here we need to label that years. So let's start with our title. I just click on the title, it pops up. I'm going to highlight it and clear it out. So as a general rule, if you're looking at a chart, you want to be able to know what's in the chart without having to go reference some text or ask someone any questions, right? The chart should be able to stand alone. So we want the title, between the title and the 2 axis labels, the chart to tell us everything we need. Well, of course, and including the line on the chart. So we're going to call this yearly bicycle sales in $1 million. Great. So which is the millions, which is the years? If I click in the chart anywhere and I'm on a Mac, up here in the corner, Add Chart Element will pop up, and if you're on a PC, you'll see something similar in this corner. From the drop-down, we're going to go to Axis Titles, and we want both the primary horizontal axis and the primary vertical axis. On a PC, it pops up all in one go. So here on our horizontal axis, our x-axis, we're going to label that year. On our vertical axis, our y-axis, we're going to label this millions, or maybe $1 million, something along the lines of that. And I don't know, you didn't ask, but you might be thinking, what about a legend? Lots of times, a legend will pop up. When do I need a legend? Sales in millions of dollars. Well, doesn't that help me know what's going on? Well, it's redundant. You need a legend if and only if you've got more than one thing plotted. If you've got 2 lines here, you need the legend to tell you which is which. With only 1 line, you don't need it. So if your version of Excel defaulted to give you that, you're just going to click on it and backspace and it will go away. All right, so here we are. Great chart. Yearly bicycle sales in millions of dollars, and we've got year on the x-axis, millions of dollars on the y-axis, and what do we see? Like all this, what do we now know? We can see that for our company, we've seen a gradual increase in bicycle sales over time. Isn't always a year-over-year increase in sales, but because, for instance, year 4 and 5 are here lower than year 3, but overall, the trend is upward. So we're seeing growths in bike sales in our data set. All right, save early, save often, have fun calculating, and I'll see you in the next video.